The horrors of World War II are well known, but the fate of Nazis in the aftermath is far less discussed. When the war ended, hundreds of thousands of Nazis were put on trial for crimes against humanity, but many escaped justice, leaving the world with a disturbing legacy. Watch the video till the end to know about those trials and how Nazis escaped to different countries. But before we start, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you are new. And with that said, let's jump straight into the video. The Nazi Party, formerly known as the National Socialist German Workers' Party, was founded in 1919 by Anton Drexler, a Munich locksmith. Adolf Hitler soon joined the party and made it his own. After 1 year, he renamed it and laid out a 25-point program that would become the backbone of the party. The program was designed to appeal to the German people by calling for the abandonment of the Treaty of Versailles and an expansion of Germany's territory. Along with this message, Hitler included anti-Semitic rhetoric that sought to gain support from the working class. In 1921, Hitler took full control of the party and began leading it in his own Nazi vision. Fast forward to World War II, Nazi Germany sought to impose their authoritarian and oppressive ideology on other countries. The German-American Bund was one example of a Nazi affiliate in the United States, and Norway's National Samling Party had virtually no domestic support. The Nazis also implemented their final solution to the Jewish question throughout occupied territories. Jews in these areas were forced in ghettos or killed in mass shootings and concentration camps, leading to the death of 6 million Jews in Europe. These acts are a reminder of the immense cruelty and suffering inflicted by Nazi Germany during World War II. So, what did the Nazis do after the war ended in 1945? Nazis and other fascists fled Europe in the wake of World War II by utilizing escape routes known as ratlines. These secret pathways enabled them to seek refuge in countries like Argentina, Colombia, Brazil, the United States, South America, and more. The ratlines allowed these perpetrators of war crimes to escape persecution for their heinous actions and enable them to live lives of relative safety. There are many names of former Nazis and war criminals who managed to escape justice by using ratlines. Let's talk about a few. Klaus Barbie went to Bolivia in 1951 with assistance from the U.S., as he had been an agent of the U.S. Army Counterintelligence Corps since 1947. He was arrested in 1983 and died in prison in France in 1991. Andrea Artukovic escaped to the United States and was arrested in 1984 before being extradited to Yugoslavia, where he died in 1988 from natural causes. Herbert Sukers fled to Brazil in 1945 and was assassinated by Mossad in Uruguay in 1965. Leon de Grill escaped to Spain in 1945 and founded a neo-Nazi organization, CIDADE, while under the protection of the Franco regime. He died in Spain in 1994. Other than these, there is a long list of Nazis and fascist war criminals who were able to evade justice using ratlines. In the aftermath of World War II, Germany was divided into 4 zones of Allied occupation. These 4 zones were: Number 1, Northeast Germany, which was under the control of the Soviet Union. Number 2, Southeast Germany, which the United States controlled. Number 3, Southwest Germany, which was controlled by France. And Number 4, Northwest Germany, which was under the control of Great Britain. The main aim behind the division of Germany into these 4 zones was to control Germany and also to prevent any further Nazi activity. In each zone, the Allied powers had different strategies to denazify Germany. The Allied Control Council was the main body responsible for governing Germany after World War II, and it announced 5 categories of Nazis in October 1946. These categories allowed them to classify Nazi criminals and determine the punishment that would be given. The first category, major offenders, was reserved for those with the most serious crimes. This included war criminals, high-ranking SS and Gestapo officers, propagandists, concentration camp personnel, and those involved in the Holocaust. Those found guilty were to be sentenced to either life imprisonment or death by execution. The second category, activists, militarists, and profiteers, was a designation for those who had actively participated in the Nazi regime. This included industrialists, politicians, and military figures. Those found guilty could face up to 10 years in prison. The third category, lesser offenders, was for those who had committed minor crimes or had been complicit in Nazi activities. This category was for bureaucrats, members of paramilitary organizations like the SA or SS, and party members. Punishment for these individuals usually involved probation of up to 3 years. The fourth category, Nazi followers and supporters, included those who had not actively participated in the regime, but still supported it. Teachers, journalists, civil servants, and even members of the general public were included in this group. The punishment for these individuals usually involved fines and surveillance. The last category was exonerated individuals. This category was for those who had been falsely accused or had acted in accordance with the law. These individuals usually did not receive any punishment. Now, an interesting fact is that the denazification was pretty difficult, but ultimately unsuccessful in entirely removing former Nazis from their positions of power. Konrad Adenauer, the first German chancellor of the post-war republic, opted for a strategy of integration instead of full denazification. This meant that a lot of Nazis were able to go unpunished, and much of the wealth they had plundered was not returned to its rightful owners. As a result of this, former Nazis were able to remain entrenched in many aspects of German society and government. After this, there were many trials that took place after the Second World War, such as the Nuremberg trial. In 1946, representatives from the 4 Allied nations met in London to set up the International Military Tribunal. This tribunal aimed to prosecute major Nazi war criminals and finally bring them to justice for the crimes they had committed during World War II. 21 defendants, including Hermann Göring and Julius Streicher, were put on trial and charged with conspiracy against peace, crimes against humanity, war crimes, and aggressive warfare. The outcome of the trial was a mixture of justice and leniency. 12 of the defendants were sentenced to death. 3 received life imprisonment. 4 got prison sentences, and only 3 were acquitted of all charges. Hermann Göring committed suicide just before his sentence was to be carried out. The subsequent Nuremberg trials took place between 1946 and 1949. These trials put 183 Nazi criminals on trial. Of these, 77 were given prison sentences, 8 life sentences, and 12 death sentences. 86 defendants were acquitted of all charges. The trials provided closure for many of the victims of the Nazi regime. It marked a decisive moment in the history of justice. The Eichmann trial. Adolf Eichmann's trial was definitely a turning point for Holocaust remembrance. After being discovered by the Israeli Secret Service in 1960, Eichmann was brought to Israel to face trial for crimes against humanity and membership of criminal organizations. His trial, which began in April 1961, drew worldwide attention and was the first time a high-ranking Nazi was charged with such crimes. During his trial, Eichmann proclaimed his innocence and claimed he was merely following orders. In December 1961, he was found guilty and sentenced to death. Frankfurt Auschwitz trials. The Frankfurt Auschwitz trial saw 22 Nazi personnel who were involved in the atrocities at the concentration camp put on trial. The defendants were accused of murder and accessory to murder rather than crimes against humanity. Although 2 of them were acquitted, 12 received sentences ranging from 3 to 10 years, and 6 were given life sentences. This trial became a milestone in Holocaust remembrance and marked the first time that Nazi personnel were held legally accountable for their actions. Other trials. Besides the trials we just discussed, many other courts across Europe and the Soviet Union tried individuals for their role in collaborating with the Nazis. In Hungary, approximately 26,000 people were convicted for treason, war crimes, or crimes against humanity. In Czechoslovakia, approximately 32,000 people were brought to court for their role in collaboration. On the other hand, the individual trial of Klaus Barbie, a German SS and Gestapo officer known as the Butcher of Lyon, took place in France. He was accused of deporting Jews and dismantling the French resistance. In 1987, he was found guilty of crimes against humanity and sentenced to life imprisonment. The Nuremberg and subsequent trials were no doubt a step forward in achieving justice for the victims of Nazi tyranny. The trials of Nazi war criminals provided closure for many victims and their families. It also marked a crucial moment in the history of justice and served as a reminder that such atrocities must not be allowed to happen again. The trials also helped set an example for future generations and provided an opportunity to learn from past mistakes. So, this was all about what Nazis did after World War II. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up to show us some support. Also, let us know in the comments if you want to see more videos on similar topics. Goodbye until next time.